Yeah.
We'll just keep going from where we are.
Yeah. Because I think there are plenty of physiotherapists who, how do I word this, who benefit from that relationship, from the coming back for a tune-up every month or however often. And I think physiotherapists who are working within the like biomechanical, like medical model, benefit from that, and also they're within that model, they're truly helping and supporting their clients, because within that model they believe that changing the length of a muscle or strengthening a muscle is going to decrease the pain. So it makes sense that the person's doing what they're doing, and they're doing something that, you know, puts the muscle back into whatever position it is that causes the pain. So then they go back to their physio to get that fixed.
Yeah. So, in that model, they're not wrong, and the clients they need, which is great.
Yeah. So, and yeah, and in the physiotherapy world, there's a big drive towards biopsychosocial model is what we call it, and it's basically yoga therapy. Like my yoga therapy is, it's kind of dawned on me. I'm like, oh, this is how you do biopsychosocial model, because all physios will say cognitively that we understand that stress and like the psycho and the social part of the people are going to have an impact on their experience. Like that, like everyone knows that, but how to incorporate that, how to see that in the clients, and how to speak to that with clients, that's where everyone's like, how do I do that? I don't like
window, right? Or
yes, yes. If they're pumping people through, with 15-minute appointments, there just isn't time. So for the physios who appreciate that and want to practice the biopsychosocial model, but their context just doesn't allow it, if they're doing the 15-minute appointments, then they can offer yoga therapy to their clients and say, listen, there's got to be something more than just like a muscle or a joint that's going like a millimeter out of place that makes you come back here all the time. And yet, you know, maybe that's not like, it's not my skill set to sort that out, or I just don't have the time.
And that becomes a referral for someone like myself, yourself even, who can take the time to sit down with someone and focus on breath, maybe have a deeper discussion about what's going on in someone's life, and exploring, how might the shoulders be related to the knee issue, right? Like, it can go like wide and deep, right?
It's so cool how the shoulders can affect the knee or the hip, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like mind-boggling though.
Yeah.
And I think that's another challenge for me with my physio training. A lot of clients who are working with me and like as a physiotherapist, they seem to want to know, or they always ask like, why did I just do this thing with my shoulders and now my legs feel like 10 pounds lighter, like when I lift them? And as a physio, like my physiotherapist brain is like, okay, what like physical connections can I make to tell them why that just happened? And which I'm sure there are, but what I've been playing with the people who ask me that is like, I don't know. like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right? Like, let's look at the outcome. Like, you're experiencing feel later. Like, do you like that feeling? Is that something that you want more of? Like, showing you that it worked, something has changed and shifted. So do we need to like cognitively like break it down and know every single little connection that got us from point A to point B?
Yeah.
Because maybe that doesn't work for the next person, but it's worked for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's this, and people are really receptive to that when I say that. Like, I don't know. That didn't work. If I did that with like the last person I saw with hip pain that was kind of similar to yours, it didn't happen. So it's just every body is such a mystery because of, sure, we may have similar anatomical structures, but we certainly don't have similar psychological or social makeup at all. So we just never know.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so drawn to yoga and yoga therapy, because it embraces a lot of the mystery, but it's also, informed and backed up by science and research and like years and decades of anecdotal evidence and experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's in my experience of physiotherapy before I was integrating yoga therapy into my practice, I would have kind of disregarded those connections or those occurrences as kind of like fluke. I'd just been like, oh. But because I couldn't find like a physical cognitive explanation that made sense, it wouldn't have been real almost. When like certainly the person's experience is very real.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to kind of the lens or the perspective that we're taking when you talked about, certain physiotherapists following like a biomedical model. So that's like one way of seeing things. And then the biopsychosocial and even spiritual model is like a different way of seeing things. So you've experienced both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so now you're seeing more possibility in the second one.
Yes.
Is, providing people with more opportunity and more possibility for themselves, essentially, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I've been playing with the whole capacity, capability stuff that Susie was talking to us about. And then there's a third part, which is a competence. So if you have a certain capacity, if your component parts are capable of only so much, then you start to work with that ability, that capability of your component parts. When it gets close to your capacity, things start to go amok. And in my physio biomedical model, I'm totally just riffing. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm thinking, I'm just having this little bit of an aha about our conversation and how this fits in with my 3 C's musings lately. In my physio only approach, the only method I had to kind of ease their pain or increase their competency was to improve the capability of the component parts. So that if you think of like do I have a picture? If you think of a circle as your capacity, and then the component parts are little circles inside. So on this one, you're working close to your full capacity. So you might be experiencing some difficulty there. In my biomedical model, I only had this. So if I could increase the capability of those component parts, it's like they get smaller, they take up less space in the whole system. So we have more competency is kind of like the space between them, or the relationship between the two. And that was all I had, was playing with the size of the component parts and how much space they take up. And within yoga therapy, it's like I can play with growing the size of the container for people, because so often, like, the definition of capacity is like the maximum amount that a vessel can hold, or, you know, like it's a finite thing. Your maximum is your maximum. Your capacity is that. But maybe it isn't. Like, I really think that our capacity can grow.
I think so too. And if you are any bit familiar with like business coaching, and they talk about, like, you know, your ceiling, you hit the glass ceiling. Well, we can move beyond that. So if that ceiling is the capacity, like maybe for a while we bump up against it, but then something inherently changes within us that we can move beyond that. And then all the capacity is bigger.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a parallel, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. That the model fits with everything. Like, it fits with the business world. It fits with us as therapists. We can improve the efficiency and, like, the cleanliness, if you want to say, the purity of the component parts of what we teach and our treatments and the stimulus that we provide. That's going to make us more competent, because we're going to be more efficient. We're going to see things in our clients more clearly and offer a stimulus that makes the most sense earlier. But we can also, with it's like with awareness, with presence, right? More of this, the psychosocial part, spiritual part of the biopsychosocial model. I think that's where our capacity balloons too. So then you're growing the one thing, shrinking the other component parts down, and then you've got all this space. Like what Mona was talking about, sattva, like it's the space between.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I
love
balance,
that. Right?
So for like people who don't know who Mona is, she's our Ayurvedic teacher, and she was in our last call describing how we're like onions and we have layers. And in her specific example, like if you peel off a layer of rajas, which would be kind of like that frenetic kind of energy, like being wound up, if we kind of peel that away, then there's a moment, like there's a space in between layers of kind of balance and calmness or expansion. And then there's like the next layer, which might be more kind of inert and lethargic, where we feel like tired or fatigued. But then, you know, we peel that layer away, and then there's kind of a sense of ease and balance or growth. And then there's another layer. So we're always working through the layers, but in the spaces in between, there's kind of, how would you describe that sattva and
balance, calm, ease?
Yeah, so we're always experiencing that in kind of like little bits and pieces. We get a glimpse of it, or we experience it for a few hours or a couple days or a week. And then there's something else. We come to the next layer, and then so we have to just keep peeling.
Yeah. And so it really comes down to an awareness that part of our components are like our mind and our social experiences and our thoughts. and our emotions. So increasing awareness of those and their relationship to our other physical component parts.
Yeah. So we're not just, you know, a shoulder or an arm bone in a shoulder socket. That pain is also related to how we interrelate with other people, how we think about ourselves, our beliefs about our body, about our world.
Yes.
Our ability to sleep at night, right? Like so many things. Maybe it's affecting like other parts of our body. If our shoulder isn't functioning well, it's going to impact how we move through life on a daily basis, right? So
and
yeah.
it's gonna impact the language that we use, the words that we choose, so that when we're speaking with a physiotherapist or yoga therapist, the therapist practicing in the biopsychosocial model is more likely to acknowledge and hear those words and understand that they're also a data point, just as valid a data point as what the range of motion of your shoulder is, or what you rate your pain like out of 10, just as valid, what your strength is, what the ligament tests that you do at that shoulder, all of those, the language that you use to describe your experience is another data point. And someone working within that biopsychosocial model is more likely to hear and acknowledge that, and to also then be able to track how your language changes as your physical experience changes, and will be able to highlight that to you so that then you can become more aware of the language that you use when you're feeling good versus when maybe you're starting to not feel so good. So, and that is huge.
Yeah. Can you give me an example?
So if someone has, so if you've got frozen shoulder, let's say, and you're coming to see me or you or Lindsay for an assessment. And as you're describing the experience, there's words like frustrated, sharp pain, stopping me from doing what I want to do. What else could there be? Can't even put my coat on. So there's those. And then, so you're working and you're doing some movements, you're doing whatever the stimulus is that your therapist has provided for you. And within the biopsychosocial model, the therapist may ask, what do you feel when you're doing this? I don't know. And you say, I feel stuck, or I feel restricted, or I feel pain, or whatever I feel. And then after a few weeks, you come in and you can say, I realized that when I'm putting my coat on, it's always first thing in the morning when it's like the rush. The kids are trying to get to the bus. I need to get them out the door and get to the bus and then get to work and whatever. And that's when I notice that my shoulder hurts and I can't even get my coat on. But it's always in the morning when I'm in that rush and when I'm frustrated. So the person in the biopsychosocial model may be able to help you link up frustration with the physical pain that you're feeling and with the restriction that you're feeling in your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're aware of that, right, Lindsay, once a client is aware of that, then they have like,
they have things now.
Yes, because now they don't have to feel the pain before, like now they can just feel if they can feel the frustration, notice the frustration, then there's like I need to, something's up. Like,
what can they build around that so that frustration doesn't arise to begin with?
Yeah. So that they don't, like, using, again, Susie Speak, our yoga therapy teacher, they don't like blast through the yellow light and then end up running through the red light and driving over the cliff and having pain in their shoulder again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a long answer.
Yeah, no, but it's awesome. And I think it helps people get a deeper understanding of like what you mean by like language and how that creates like our environment, right? Like it creates our experience, the words that we use.
Mm-hmm.
As therapists, we can listen and we can hear those words and draw from their experience to help create, like you said, more awareness so that they don't have to experience the symptoms that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And it's not us, doing something physically to them that's changing their experience. It's just bringing more awareness so that they can make little changes, or just simply by knowing what they didn't know before is enough to bring about a shift or a change that can be long lasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're interrupting the patterns.
Yes. So it's really valuable to have that happening alongside a more physical approach, like a more, I don't want to say, like a more focused physical approach, which in my experience is what physiotherapy offers, a more physical focused approach. So that then you're working with, the physiotherapist is able to really assess and feel they can feel the tissues in your shoulder. So if we stick with the frozen shoulder example, it's like the capsule that kind of surrounds the joint that gets inflamed and irritated and kind of like tightens up. So physiotherapists can feel how tight that is, and can do some movements to try to help actually like release that tissue. They can do physical things to help release that tissue. And then if you're working along with a yoga therapist, then the yoga therapist is helping you feel what other stimulus in your life are contributing to the tightness in that tissue.
I love that. I love that there can be like such a nice relationship between two different healthcare providers, but still like working with someone towards the same goal, right? Like, and like having a completely different lens, but still complementing each other. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
People would get better really fast, or a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation. I think that kind of helps, clarify some things. Like I've struggled having conversations with people like, how is physio different from a yoga therapist? And I know there's more kind of like diagnosis and if it's a different skill set, but still, working towards the same goal. So I think this like clarifies some things for me. I think it's going to clarify things for people who want to listen, and it just provides just another tool or another skill set that people can explore if that's what they want to do. Yeah. So I didn't do the introduction at the beginning because we hit record kind of late. But just if anybody's still listening, I'm talking with Kirsten Richardson, and she is a physiotherapist and a yoga therapist working up in Bracebridge. And your company is called
Be Well Physiotherapy.
Be Well Physiotherapy. And so right now you're offering online classes and you're doing your one-to-one sessions with clients online.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's been fun, and it's been a lot of fun incorporating yoga therapy into my work. I was ready to throw in the towel as a physiotherapist. I was feeling really frustrated, and I knew there was more, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't find that more with how I had interpreted and taken in and practiced what I learned as a physiotherapist. So yoga brought me, it like grew my capacity. So and, to be able to see more. Yeah.
Yeah. And having been there, when did I meet you? Back in 2016 in Kingston at the first intensive that we did, and like being through the whole certification process with you and watching your process has been really, really fascinating as well. So it's kind of come full circle and will continue to, you know, expand and grow. And I'm really excited for you, and I'm excited for me now that our certification's kind of coming to an end. And
we're ready to to go out and share.
Yeah, share more, right? Yes. Like it's happening.
Here we come.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kirsten. That was a great chat. So thanks for joining me.
Okay. Bye.